Now that we can trade again in Dynasty Fantasy Football, Nathan and I have identified some sell candidates that we really think are overpriced. The market might be a little bit too high on them. We think they might decrease in value, or we just think that there might be better values around them. So we've got some rules for our sells videos, since every time we do these, we seem to get death threats, which is insane because it's a game. Number one, we aren't right about everything. We know that. We've been wrong a lot before. We're probably going to be wrong about some of these players if I had to guess, because that's what happens, right? You don't bat 1,000 when you're doing Dynasty takes. They're takes. Number two, don't get in your feelings. For real. It's literally, come on, like, seriously. Number three, these are just suggestions. You don't have to make them, and they're not always like ironclad, hey, this guy is an absolute, like, screaming sell. Because rule number four is it's less of we hate this player and more, hey, we like playing the market. Nathan and I very rarely have takes where we're like, we hate this player. You know when we do. Like, we've already told, like, why do you think J.J. McCarthy's not on this video? You know that we don't like J.J. McCarthy as a player. But these guys are more market plays than anything. So please follow the sell rules as we get into the sells video. Here we go. Let's start with the first one. Emeka Egbuka. And I think that I think this was honestly the one everybody was expecting to see when they clicked on the video. I think this is honestly the one that people are most split on. Although I feel like in our live streams and such, in the last couple of weeks, I've gotten the vibe that people actually aren't split on this as much as we think they are. Emeka Egbuka finished the year as the wide receiver 23. Okay, and when you're looking at his splits after the bye week in week 9, 23 points against New England, and then the rest of the season, he went over 10 points one time, and that was with 10.4 points against Atlanta. He had one touchdown in the last when weeks 10 through 18. He had no touchdowns week 11 and on. He had no more than 4 targets from week 12 on. His usage, I mean, from a snap share standpoint, you saw it from weeks 10 through 14. It was like, still high 80s, low 90s. But then in weeks 15 through 18, 64, 56, 58, and 58. And what did that coincide with, Nate? Do you know? There's one person that came back from injury.
Michael Evans.
Not even him. It's
Christopher Godwin.
Nope.
Jalen McMillan.
Jalen McMillan. That's the one I was going to say, because
McMillan had a good end of the season last year.
He did, and he played the last 4 games, so week 15 on. And again, this is when there's a direct correlation with Egbuka's snap share going down, and then McMillan got about 50% of the snaps as well. And when you're looking at these games, McMillan had 5, 3, 18, and 2 points. Egbuka had 10, 5, 5, and 1 points. Basically, they were splitting that role for the most part, and they were both not productive. I don't love this. I thought Jalen McMillan, with Egbuka, they drafted to essentially replace Jalen McMillan or to get a better wide receiver 3 on the field. Fact of the matter is, you did mention Mike Evans and Chris Godwin, and as those guys kind of filtered back into the rest of the season, it was very clear that Baker Mayfield, even though early in the season, I thought Emeka Egbuka was establishing himself as the clear wide receiver 1 there. You saw his targets kind of fall off a cliff. And, when the touchdowns didn't come, when the big plays didn't come like they did the first couple of weeks, I mean, really from week 6 on, you're talking about a guy who was only in double digits twice. Now, this is a wide receiver prospect from Ohio State that we were very high on. And it is a wide receiver prospect that at 23 years old flashed in the NFL on a very good offense. So I think you have to consider that and have to consider the hit rates of guys who have shown that they can produce at a somewhat wide receiver 1 level. I think he's more of a wide receiver 2. We said that about him as a prospect. But the fact of the matter is there's no other way to put this besides what we saw from Emeka Egbuka really from week 6 on was very concerning. And so, look, I think if Egbuka were going any lower than what he is in Dynasty, I would not be recommending him as a sell. Because, I mean, I could easily see him being somebody you want to hold on to. But I don't see any reason why, Emeka Egbuka should be valued at 21st overall, 2nd round, and somebody like Brian Thomas Jr., A.J. Brown, like those guys should be valued 2 or 3 rounds below him. Like Brian Thomas Jr., I understand that Brian Thomas Jr. had a bad year. I know that he looked bad. That's another guy that has a history of proven production. And when you're looking at weeks 13 and on, he outproduced Emeka Egbuka. So, I mean,
I'm very, very curious to see what his reception perception will look like for his rookie season, because if I were a betting man, what I would guess is when you had Mike Evans and Godwin and Egbuka on the field, when Egbuka was playing very well to begin the season, I would guess that he was probably playing against zone coverage a lot and was kind of a zone beater. He was like kind of screaming wide open a lot of times. I wonder if they switched to man like in the middle of the season and he did less great. I honestly, like, that's just totally a guess. Like, I don't really know for sure, but I just think it's kind of bizarre. The only reason that you see that dramatic fall off, not just in production with like touchdowns, but target volume as a whole in snap share, is like if he's not getting open as often.
And so
or the quality targets are like way low.
This is still a guy that in his rookie year had 64 receptions is not a lot, but 938 yards and 6 touchdowns. Like, I mean, even though his fall off was like none I've ever seen, I do think there is a world where Emeka Egbuka becomes a really good price this season. But here's what I'm going to bet is happening right now. I think there's a bubble for Emeka Egbuka right now, and I think he's still sitting on top of the ball. I think the bubble's about to pop. And I think, with him going at second-round prices, which we've seen in startup, we just did a live startup, a real money startup, I don't think it's going to last. And so, like, the moves I'm making right now, if you can move Egbuka to get up to, like, plus to get, like, Drake London, Justin Jefferson, or CeeDee Lamb, so you have to add something on top of Emeka Egbuka to do that. Obviously, the what on top depends on your league and your league mates. I like doing that. I like using him as an up-tier candidate depending on what kind of team you have, what kind of depth you have, what your league settings are. If you're looking to pivot from him, there are plenty of guys here. Tat McMillan and Rashee Rice have been going right next to Emeka Egbuka. You've got guys from the running back position like James Cook in here who I really like. Quinshon Judkins I really like. Travion Henderson's even there. I would prefer Henderson over Egbuka at the moment, I think, as well. And so I tend to like all the guys in that range over Egbuka, which is why I think he's a little bit of a sell. I think he's going to settle more in the third, fourth round of value by the time the offseason is done. I think the further we get away from the season, I think his value is going to go down. And in terms of down tiering from Emeka Egbuka to another player, I love down tiering to Chris Olave if it's still possible, and I think in most leagues that is still possible. I love down tiering to Marvin Harrison Jr., who has showed some flashes, but not as many as we'd expect. We're going to die on the Marv Hill. I'm just like full transparency. We're dying on the Marv Hill. And he was hurt the last 10 weeks of the year. We're going to die on that hill. I do like the down tier, and I like getting something on top there. I don't mind the down tier to Brian Thomas Jr., to be honest with you. I don't mind those moves. I think any further than that is too far. And honestly, I think those are the main three, like Marv, BTJ, and Olave plus, because I think all of them have question marks, just like Emeka Egbuka does. But all of them have upside, just like Emeka Egbuka does. Marvin Harrison Jr., obviously the best wide receiver prospect we've seen in a while. Brian Thomas also flashed as a rookie and then had a little bit of a falling off. And so all of these, and then Chris Olave, obviously, dominant wide receiver one season this year. I like these moves. I think that the market price is going to adjust on Emeka Egbuka, and I'm not out on Egbuka as a player. I think he's a fantastic NFL wide receiver. I think he's going to be a very good NFL wide receiver with a good NFL career. Maybe this is more like, hey, if you're in an active league, like now's the time to sell if you could ever buy him back in the future. Maybe that's what it is. But honestly, I just don't see his value maintaining here as we go throughout the offseason, and I would recommend you get one of those deals done just to kind of maximize on his value peak right now before he continues to go down. He's already on his past his peak. His peak was top 12. Yeah. He's already on his way down. Yeah. But I still think I don't think it's decreased enough. I think he should settle in the third, fourth round. So. And
real quick, check out those man versus zone stats. Yards per route run versus man 1.5, 153rd versus 2.02 for zone. Target separation versus man 1.0 versus 1.59 for zone. Points per route run versus man 0.32 versus 1.65 versus zone.
Something else to point out with Emeka Egbuka is his catchable target rate is 93rd in the league. 58% of his targets.
I think there are a lot of metrics. I think there are a lot of interesting metrics there that indicate that he might just kind of be a volatile fantasy asset on a week by week perspective in terms of like the type of wide receiver that he plays.
Also second in unrealized air yards.
Yeah.
So be careful with your deals for Emeka Egbuka. That is a strictly like, can you capitalize on his market? If people don't want to pay the price for him, then I am honestly okay holding him. That's just my. There are some things here that tell me that Emeka Egbuka, I still believe in him a lot, even though the fall off was crazy. I do think he's still going to fall in value, but sometimes I think it might be worth holding.
Yeah, Jameson Williams going to be our next guy here. If you recall, we had a buys video in the middle of the season where we kind of were ranting and yelling and saying, hey, we told you that this is what Jameson Williams was. Why are you freaking out now when he's got a little bit of a slow start to the season, which it was a lot of bit of a slow start to the season. Yes. But, he comes on at the end of the year and looks phenomenal, finishes as the wide receiver 12 on the year, number 49 overall. He did play all 17 games, 102 targets, 65 receptions, 1,100 yards, and 7 touchdowns. I want to tell you about another guy who's he's a fraction of the price of Jameson Williams, who had 84 targets, 47 receptions, 1,000 yards, and 6 receiving touchdowns. Less targets, less receptions, obviously, but almost the same amount of yardage and touchdown production. That was Alec Pierce. And I think everybody kind of knows, again, like what type of wide receiver he is. And again, everybody knows the archetype that Jameson Williams is as well, right? He's a big play, boom bust type of wide receiver who's going to score you 0 points or in the single digits, or he's going to score you 20 plus points any given week with a touchdown or a lot of target volume. He can get you 9 to 10 targets, or he can get one target, literally one target. It was a tale of two halves for Jameson Williams. After the bye week, 16, 23, 19, 0, 26, 17, 26, 12, 15, or 5, and 13. The reason we have Jameson Williams listed as a sell now is he is quite literally, quite easily, the most liquid, one of the most liquid assets in Dynasty. And what we mean by that is he's incredibly easy to move regardless of what his price is. And by the way, his price variance from any point in time during the year, whether it's, again, at the beginning of the season or the end, I mean, he could have a 3-round price gap over a 2-month period. Literally. So with JMO right now, he has shot up to a price point where he is equivalent to Saquon Barkley, AJ Brown, Cam Scattaboo. Luther Burden is another guy that's right there, closer, getting very, very close to T. Higgins and BTJ. Very close to T. Higgins and BTJ. And by the time that you get to that point, again, you're looking at like essentially the drop off of like those high end, high value upside wide receivers where, you know, like you've historically seen a bunch of those guys move up to like the second round. You've seen a bunch of those guys kind of fall down into the top of that following tier, which really starts with T. Higgins. And that's kind of the case with Jameson Williams right now. Is Williams is essentially going to be a perennial post drop off wide receiver tier where he can't really ever get up into the elite upside value tier because he's in the same offense as Jahmyr Gibbs and Amon-Ra St. Brown. And oh, by the way, it's no coincidence that Jameson Williams' big run began right around when Sam Laporta started getting banged up and then was declared out for the rest of the season. There really is a direct correlation. This was a debate that we had, I think, last year or a couple of years ago, where we said like, hey, it's either going to be Sam Laporta or Jameson Williams. You pick which one it's going to be. And we, of course, ended up being wrong on who it was going to be because I think it ended up being JMO and then Laporta, and then it ended up being a split between the two, and they really just kind of fed off of each other. And the argument that I think we ended up making is like, hey, this is not a do they have the same skill set thing. This is just a pure target volume opportunity take here. Like, no, Laporta and JMO don't have the same skill set, not even close, but their production directly impacts the other just in terms of the opportunity that they're going to get any given week. And if Sam Laporta is getting all the red zone targets, JMO's not getting any touches anywhere near the end zone unless he pops off like a 60-yard run, which is always possible, but it's not something that you're going to want to rely on a weekly basis. Next year, we're going to be coming back to an offense where Sam Laporta is going to be fully healthy. Amon-Ra's not going anywhere. Jahmyr Gibbs isn't going anywhere. Whether they move on from David Montgomery or get somebody else in free agency, I don't really care. They're going to run the same type of offense that's been very successful in the Dan Campbell era. I don't think anyone really would argue this year that the offense was the issue for why they missed the playoffs. Like they're going to remain very, very similar in terms of that offensive outlook. And JMO, again, with how movable he is, how interested people are consistently with Jameson Williams, whether as a buy low, which we're interested in JMO as a buy low, or were interested in him when he was down in dang near the 90s in terms of value and like overall ADP, value equivalent to guys like DK and Ricky Pearsall just a couple of months ago. Like now you couldn't even dream of getting that price for or of paying that price to get Jameson Williams. He's a lot more expensive now, and this is where you want to capitalize. So in terms of pivots, Cam Scattaboo, I'd rather take an upside shot on him. Saquon Barkley, I'd rather take the veteran bell cow running back whose situation really isn't going to change. No, by the way, they're probably going to ban the tush push. If you can swing a T. Higgins, I would absolutely do that. T. Higgins is a wide receiver too in an offense with Joe Burrow where it really is less crowded overall. And then AJ Brown, I would take a shot on AJ Brown, whether he stays with the Eagles or goes somewhere else. I don't really care. And then if you're looking at down tiers, I would try for Luther Burden plus, Josh Jacobs plus, Jalen Waddle plus, Devonta Smith plus, Zay Flowers plus. Those are two wide receiver ones or two wide receiver twos and a wide receiver one in Zay Flowers, who actually finished as the wide receiver 7 overall this season, a lot cheaper than Jameson Williams is at the moment. And then if you were to up tier, I just saw an up tier today where someone paid Jameson Williams and Nico Collins to get Amon-Ra St. Brown. I love that type of deal. Absolutely love that type of deal. That's one where you're really just buying so much more value insulation, and you're getting rid of two really volatile assets in Nico and JMO, who, like, again, any given moment could lose or gain 1 to 1.5 rounds of value ish. And Amon-Ra is just going to be so steady for the next couple of years at least. So those are kind of the moves that we're looking for here. With JMO, again, it's nothing against him. Honestly, the more I watch JMO, the more I enjoy watching JMO, the player. I enjoy Jameson Williams, the talent. I enjoyed having him on my fantasy team for the price point that I traded him for in the Flock League. And that was another reason, again, that it kind of saved me from going to Denny's after having the worst draft objectively in the Flock League, was having Jameson Williams on my team. He really has at times been a great value, and I think a lot of times like people are just like, oh, you're a JMO hater because you say to sell him all the time. I'm like, well, his value fluctuates like crazy on the regular, on an annual basis. Really on a monthly basis, he just goes up and down and up and down. So we will continue to play the market with Jameson Williams. You will see him on buy videos, and then you will see him on sells videos, and then you'll see him on a buy video again. I guarantee it at some point.
And if you are one of those players that's like, yeah, well, in my league you can't buy and then sell and then sell and then buy.
Then get in a more active league.
Either that or just don't sell him if you believe in him, or sell him if you don't believe in him. Like, you know, it's the fact of the matter is, we're trying to tailor our content towards active leagues. And you notice a lot of the sells, like for example, Egbuka is largely dependent on, is Egbuka like the wide receiver 5 on your team, or is he wide receiver 2 on your team? And a lot of times when we're looking at teams, like that is what makes the difference for us. Is the same thing with Jameson Williams, same thing with Bucky Irving that we're going to talk about. We have started to give very specific up tiers, down tiers, and pivots on our team blueprints with our brand new ones. If you'd like to get your team reviewed, we can tell you which guys on your team you should sell away right now to start the offseason. It's good to get a plan at the very beginning of the offseason, so you have all offseason while your league mates are active to capitalize on that plan, to build a good dynasty team, and to make sure you're not losing value as we go through the different parts of the dynasty season. So you get a free team blueprint. You also get infinite blueprint, a new blueprint every month, so that you never stop getting continuous advice. You're going to unlock the domain league network, so you can join active leagues and play in leagues where you can actually buy and sell players multiple times if you want to. You can jump in and get our rookie vault, the bakery. You can get all the tools on the site as well. You get all of that for free, including the free team blueprint from Nathan and I at flockfantasy.com/domain. If you do the annual Mother Flocker tier, it's going to unlock everything. It's going to unlock that blueprint from Nathan and I, and we're going to be able to tell you, hey, these are the guys on your team we think are going to go down in market value. Maybe make this move depending on your depth, depending on your league settings. Every league is different. There is no one-size-fits-all piece of advice, and so that's why we try to give personalized advice based on your specific league. So you can check that out at the link in the pinned comment, and we've got those available for you guys as well. Let's talk about Bucky Irving. Bucky Irving was the highlight of our first sells video in January last year. Bucky Irving's value has literally not changed at all since that video. It has been, and part of the reason it has is because, we got glimpses of the good Bucky at the beginning of the year. And so I think his value was about to go up. Then he got hurt, so his value maintained. And then, at the end of the year, we got glimpses of bad Bucky. And so his value has started to dip a little bit. And I honestly, with this one, don't care about making a player take here, because my player take on Bucky Irving is I think he's a really good running back. I think Bucky Irving is a good running back. I think Bucky Irving is a good player. I think Bucky Irving in Dynasty, his price is not outrageous, which is why if you don't get the right deal, fine. But the fact of the matter is Bucky Irving, was playing injured all of this year. And so whether you want to take these stats and do anything with them is completely up to you. I think they still mean something. I still think the opportunity share means something. I think the fact that Sean Tucker was getting the red zone carries in this offense means something. I think that the fact that his efficiency dipped this year means something. Again, even if it was the fact that he was playing injured, I think that means something. For me, with Bucky Irving, it's more about the guys he's going around. There are two guys that I compared him to in the Flock comparison tool. He's about half of the price of Bucky Irving that I think put together very similar statistical seasons, if not better statistical seasons than Bucky Irving. Comparing him to Chase Brown and Travis Etienne, the only categories that Bucky wins in, of course, age and rushing attempts and receiving yards. But even then, Chase Brown's receiving yards only 3 off. Travis Etienne still has 17 receiving yards a game. Travis Etienne's the most efficient of the bunch, has the most touchdowns of the bunch. Total yards, Chase Brown actually wins, and targets per game, and rushing attempts. And so my thing is, for the level of production you're getting from Bucky Irving, I mean, we're talking about comparing him to Chase Brown. I think Chase Brown is in less of a committee than Bucky Irving is. I think he has just as much security in the sense that he's on a team where Chase Brown ended the year very well, and Bucky Irving didn't. And they both are, at, in my opinion, very little risk of being replaced this offseason because of a poor running back class and because the Bengals shouldn't be in the market for a running back because they've got such bigger issues. And I could probably say the same thing about the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. They're both not. So, their security is about the same. But, the no-brainer slam dunk to me move from Bucky Irving is going to be this one. If you can get James Cook, I would probably even be willing to add a second on top of Bucky Irving to get James Cook. If you can get James Cook instead of Bucky Irving, I mean, there are multiple trades that have been completed in Dynasty leagues that I have seen where you've basically just pivoted from Bucky to James Cook, which is crazy. James Cook wins in points per game, finish, rushing attempts, rushing yards, yards per carry, rushing attempts. The only thing that he's not as good at is as a receiving back, but again, the touchdowns are drastically different. James Cook 7th in touchdowns per game, Bucky Irving 30th. And then in total yards, of course, James Cook just knocks him. James Cook is on a good situation. These guys are ranked back-to-back in every single Dynasty platform. I'm looking at the trade finder, and I'm seeing these guys going for swaps. Maybe there's a second on one side or another. But this is the pivot to me. It's like, if you can get this done, I would prefer Cook. It's an absolute no-brainer for me. Cook is just as insulated. He's on his second contract. He's locked in there for multiple years. He's playing on just as good a situation, if not better. And he's getting more yards, scoring more touchdowns, running the ball more. Like, well, I don't know what else you would need to see. So that's like honestly my favorite move for Bucky Irving. But again, even to give you some guys, some other guys in the rankings here that you could down tier, up tier, or pivot from. Talking about down tiers first, if you want to down tier from Bucky Irving, you can down tier, like I mentioned, to any of these guys, and I'm cool with it. Brees as a market play, Chase Brown, Kyron Williams, Saquon Barkley, Josh Jacobs even. Now, that's probably as far as I want to go, but all 5 of those guys, if you want to down tier them, I'm totally good with it. In terms of your pivots here, I would prefer Travion Henderson probably over Bucky Irving. And he's kind of climbing away from Bucky Irving now, so that might be more of an up tier. But James Cook's still right next to him. Quinshon Judkins I would prefer over Bucky Irving most likely. I have them really ranked right back-to-back, neck and neck. You could make a pretty good argument to take Christian McCaffrey over Bucky Irving in Dynasty, in my opinion. And then up tier. If you want to use Bucky to up tier, in my opinion, you have to go higher than this. You have to go to Achane, Hampton, Genty, or Jonathan Taylor if you want to up tier there and add something on top of Bucky Irving. It's more about the players around him. When I'm looking at the guys who are disproportionately ranked when you're looking at their production versus their price, Bucky Irving is less productive than James Cook. He's less productive than Travion Henderson at the end of the season. He's less productive than Christian McCaffrey. He probably will be less productive than James Hall. He's more productive than less productive than Chase Brown. He's less productive than Kyron Williams. He's as productive or less productive than Saquon. So, he's the outlier there in Dynasty. All of these running backs are producing. Bucky was not producing at the end of the year. And again, I understand he was hurt, and it's not really a player take here. It's more of when I'm going to get the best bang for my buck in terms of production versus price, I think there are better bangs for your buck in this price range at the running back position that you can move to and not have Bucky Irving on your Dynasty roster.
Next guy we're going to have here is a wide receiver from the Chargers, Ladd McConkey. I know we've talked about Ladd McConkey quite a bit since he came onto the scene and had a really, really great rookie season last year, over 1,100 receiving yards on just 112 targets, but 82 receptions. He was so efficient with his opportunities because he's essentially an exclusive slot wide receiver. I mean, slot snaps this year, 521 slot snaps, 62% slot rate. That was second in the NFL. This guy's a slot receiver and a really, really good route runner as well. He's actually got a more versatile route tree than you would expect even out of the slot. A lot of people were hoping that Ladd is going to be the next Amon-Ra St. Brown. And while I'm not going to say from a talent perspective that that's totally out of the cards, I think from a volume and consistent opportunity perspective in a Greg Roman offense, it's just not going to happen. And right now where he's being priced, there are a ton of wide receivers in his range, again, that I'm going to get to that I much prefer over Ladd. But let me just tell you why I am so out on Ladd. It's not even funny. He's probably one of my biggest sells. Number one, Ladd hasn't actually lost too much insane value. He's dipped in value, but where he's settled again is kind of the bottom of that tier that we already kind of had him in to start the season. And again, that's just a testament to his insulation and what is viewed as a very good situation paired with Justin Herbert. If you remember at the beginning of the season, Avery and I kind of had a crisis of not a crisis of faith. What am I trying to think? What am I trying to say? We had we're questioning our lives.
Soul searching?
Or we were soul searching. There we go. Thank you. We were soul searching.
You know what I'm searching for? What happened to your face? That's what I want to know the answer. What happened to your face?
Well, my dog ate my homework. I mean, my face.
Yeah.
No, I picked a zit way too many times over the weekend, and we're not production professional enough to wear makeup on the set.
Yeah, I was gonna say if you ever,
you know what? I just came on the camera. This is what I look like. So
you're getting raw, unfiltered Nathan. How about that?
Raw, unfiltered zits.
Yeah, right.
So yeah.
Honestly, we probably should have put some foundation on there or something. Is that what you put on there?
I didn't put
concealer.
anything on there.
Concealer. That's why it's called
I don't know,
concealed.
dude. I don't know.
I figured you would.
No.
Oh, okay.
Anyways, with Ladd, we kind of were soul searching at the beginning of the year because we were like, are we just dead wrong about everything Greg Roman? Because you had Keenan Allen and Ladd and Quentin Johnson all producing at a very high level to start the season, with Omarion Hampton doing pretty decent too when he was splitting him back.
Yeah, we were questioning the laws of physics.
We're actually questioning everything, because if you recall, before that we were like, guys, I swear we're just telling you, there has never been a running back one and a wide receiver one producing at the same time in a Greg Roman offense at any given moment during the year. Like during any season that Greg Roman has been an offensive play caller, there has not been a wide receiver one and running back one playing together. It's always a running back one with a wide receiver two at best, or flip it around, it's a low end wide receiver one and a running back two at best. Folks, we went through this year with about half the season with no Omarion Hampton, and Ladd McConkey finished as the wide receiver, wait for it, 30.
He's wide receiver 33 in fantasy points per game.
33 in fantasy points per game.
11.3.
Quentin Johnston had more points per game than Ladd McConkey, and he also finished as a wide receiver 3.
Oh, but Ladd's opportunity went down. Nope, played in 16 games both years, had 107 and 112 targets in both those years. He caught, 16 less passes than he did the year before. He had almost 300 less receiving yards, actually almost 400 less than receiving yards. His efficiency went down. His air yards were the same. He had the same amount of touchdowns, and his efficiency dropped so much that his points per game dropped 3.8 points per game.
We said this all offseason last year, and it drove you guys crazy, and we will say it again. There cannot be a highly productive running back alongside a highly productive wide receiver in a Greg Roman offense. It is a tale as old as time, and Greg Roman will take this trend down to his grave until he's no longer a play caller. Ladd McConkey's ceiling is capped. It is so capped, it's not even funny. And I'm just telling you guys, if you're going to be Ladd truthers, you best not be ranking Omarion Hampton as a top 24 dynasty asset. You best not be even close to that price range for Omarion Hampton. So if you are going to come on here on the comments, which is totally fine, you can totally disagree, and make a case for Ladd McConkey, I'm telling you, you cannot make a case for Omarion Hampton to be a highly productive, consistently productive running back. You can't. It is not possible. It is not within the nature of a Greg Roman play caller for this to be a possibility. We have over a decade. We have a half dozen years of maybe even more than that of Greg Roman calling plays, where again we have so much data that has just been proven time and time and time again in situation after situation, regardless of quarterback, regardless of talent, it doesn't matter. And I'm just telling you guys, Ladd McConkey at price right now, where he is being priced, he is at his value ceiling. There is not, in my opinion, in Dynasty Fantasy Football, there is not a worse value upside play than Ladd McConkey at price right now. He's value equivalent right now to Chris Olave, who's a wide receiver one this year in a much worse situation, at least optically. Much rather have Chris Olave. I would much rather pivot to Garrett Wilson. Much rather pivot to Quinshawn Judkins. Would much rather pivot to Marv and BTJ, which might be debatable. We've said we'll die on the Marv hill. And if you disagree with BTJ, that's fine. The way that they win and the way that they produce is totally different. But, I mean, I would down tier to guys. There are wide receiver twos in offenses that are more consistently productive than Ladd McConkey is and get more consistent target volume. Down tier to T. Higgins. Down tier to Jamison Williams, who is what you want Ladd McConkey to be. It's literally what you want Ladd McConkey to be. A perennial wide receiver two with low-end wide receiver one upside, which JMO finished as this season, who we also have in the sales video today. I would rather take a shot on Jamison Williams than I would on Ladd McConkey. I down tier to A.J. Brown. I down tier to Waddle. I down tier to Devonta Smith. I would, in a vacuum, I would literally take Zay Flowers straight up over Ladd McConkey. If I were in charge of market value, I would take Zay Flowers over Ladd McConkey all day. And they are multiple rounds apart. It's not even remotely close. Like, I am so confident in this. I'm just telling you guys, if you want to take a value upside shot, don't take it in Ladd McConkey. Everybody else in that range has higher value upside given not only what they've shown, but just how their offenses operate. This is not a Ladd McConkey, the talent take. This is he cannot transcend the situation that he's in. And it's not his fault. If you remember Ladd's reception perception when we went over it last season, like, it was great. It was actually elite. Like, he's a great route runner. There's no question about it whatsoever. There is not an offense that I've seen in the NFL that is less capable of producing a running back 1 and wide receiver 1 in the same season. It is impossible. Statistically, it is impossible. We have never ever seen it. Up tier from Ladd, get up to Tet. Up tier from Ladd, get up to Rashee Rice, get to London. Heck, I just mentioned Omarion Hampton. I would much rather take the shot on the running back in a Greg Roman offense than the 100%. Wide receiver. I mean, guys, I'm just telling you, Omarion Hampton looks really dang good. Like, one of the better running backs in the league is what his trajectory is. Once his snap share started going up before the injury, he looked phenomenal. Got injured, snap share went back up post-injury. Started looking really, really good. We'll see how he does in the playoffs as well. His receiving upside is phenomenal. Sometimes his receptions his receptions alone on some games are more than like the targets that Ladd McConkey is getting in the same game. Like, that's how volatile and inconsistent it is with Ladd on a weekly, because it's so game plan and so game script dependent with him.
So this one to me proves that people actually don't care about fantasy football production and fantasy points. They just care about, who's good in the NFL, who's bad in the NFL.
Who's the cute name?
Because you'll remember, like, if you've been around long enough, you remember that my favorite player, my favorite quarterback in the quarterback 2023 class was CJ Stroud by a pretty long shot. I planted my flag on him. I said he was better than Young. He ended up going second overall, and then he ended up having a great rookie season, and I was like, hooray. So CJ Stroud, yeah, I love CJ Stroud. As a player, I loved him as a prospect. CJ Stroud last year averaged 13.7 points per game after averaging 18.7 in his first year. Now, this year, the Houston Texans are good. But we're acting like the Houston Texans are good. We look at the Houston Texans are good, and we assume, that must mean they have elite quarterback play and therefore elite fantasy production. And you just cannot get to that conclusion if you actually look at the metrics here. CJ Stroud, as a quarterback in a Superflex league, is the quarterback 15 now in value. He's rising in value. He has averaged 15.3 points per game this year. That is 20th in the NFL in points per game. Not to mention, he's only played 13 games. He's been on and off the field with injuries. But with Stroud, I mean, this is some of the most replaceable fantasy football production that you can find. I mean, I could go to anybody from Stroud. Let's start with the down tiers here. I can down tier from Stroud to any of these quarterbacks below him, and I know I'm going to get the similar production. If I down tier to Dak, I actually get more production here. Okay? If I down tier to Baker, I'm going to get the same level of production in Baker's down year. We talked about 15.3 points a game for CJ Stroud. When you're looking at Baker Mayfield this year, 16.8. I'm getting a production increase by going to Baker Mayfield multiple rounds later. I could go to Sam Darnold this year. Sam Darnold had a really good start to the year and then kind of petered out at the end of the year. Didn't end up finishing as like a quarterback 1 like we thought, but still 15 points per game. That's the same level of production that you're getting from CJ Stroud on a per game basis. I can go to Jared Goff. Jared Goff didn't have a fantastic year by his own standards. The Lions weren't any good, so Goff is losing value, but when you're looking at their production, he's averaging 18.1 points per game. This is 12th on a better offense. And he's still going 3 rounds cheaper. I could keep going. You can go to Bryce Young if you want to. I'm pretty sure Bryce Young, for all of his pitfalls, has been at least within a point or two of 14.1. You're within a point there. Point per game of CJ Stroud, but you're talking about a 4-round difference now. Should we even talk about Tyler Shuck in the last, when he was a starter, what he was averaging? Matthew Stafford is going 5 or 6 rounds cheaper. You want to win at Dynasty Fantasy Football? I know you're going to spend a lot of time on this one. You want to win at Dynasty Fantasy Football? Do not use your Dynasty value to invest in quarterbacks that are producing at the replacement level. If you want to win, if you look at all of Nathan and I's fantasy championship rosters this year, there's one thing they all have in common is we went pretty much 0 QB. We don't have guys in the QB dead zone where their value does not match what their production is. If you want to up tier from Stroud, I think it's a good time to up tier from Stroud if you want to. I don't love having top end quarterbacks, but I can get up to, even if, honestly, I'm going to do pivots, 2 pivots here. Brock Purdy is pretty close in value to CJ Stroud, and he shouldn't be. Brock Purdy should be much higher than CJ Stroud, so I honestly think you could go there. I think you could make just as good an argument for a lot of guys in this range, but you could up tier to, or even Trevor Lawrence is a pivot, by the way, depending on where he's going now. He might end up going too high, which is fine. But up tier to Jackson Dart. Up tier to Jalen Hurts, who's bleeding value right now, and I'd rather have Hurts over Stroud any day in Dynasty. And you're talking about like a 1.5 round difference between them right now. Justin Herbert, Caleb Williams, those guys. I am all in on just moving off of CJ Stroud as a Dynasty asset right now, just because, again, the production does not match the price here. And just because the Texans are good doesn't mean that he's an elite fantasy asset. And I understand what we saw in his rookie year. Fact of the matter is that offense hasn't been the same as it was since his rookie year. CJ Stroud has not been the same as he was his rookie year. So I'm moving on. There's not a roster I would hold CJ Stroud on in Dynasty right now. That's probably the one I feel the strongest about on this list for sure. This is one where it's like the price to me is like so backwards it doesn't make any sense to me. So sell Stroud in my opinion.
Yeah, then we're going to close this out with a tight end. A tight end that is very near and dear to our heart because he was just drafted to the Indianapolis Colts this past season. I was a huge, obsessed with Tyler Warren coming out of Penn State. Was thrilled when he went to the Colts, though I felt bad for him because I knew that we were going to suck. Started, looked phenomenal, and then, of course, peed down our leg when anyone spoke the word playoff. But that's not even the point here. With Tyler Warren, he had a good season for a rookie tight end. Finished as the tight end 4 on the season. Had 112 targets, 76 receptions, over 800 receiving yards, and 4 touchdowns. He also had 1 or 2 touchdowns on the ground as well. I mean, basically every way that Tyler Warren was utilized at Penn State, you saw those types of reps and those types of opportunities and that type of versatility at the NFL level for the Colts. Here's my gripe with Tyler Warren, the fantasy asset, the dynasty asset. As a talent, I have no questions. As a fan, obviously no questions. I love Tyler Warren. My gripe with Tyler Warren quite literally starts with the team that he's on and how dependent he is for consistent fantasy production depending on it's all based on the status of that team and how good they actually look. Because Tyler Warren was the last puzzle piece to that offense for a reason. He is their luxury item. He is their unnecessary Lamborghini. Like they really don't need him or require him to be successful to even win, but they can use him to a point where they can bury you if they are doing really well. And I think there is a direct correlation between when Tyler Warren stopped producing consistently towards the end of the season after the bye week, and this offense just started looking way, way, way worse. I don't think it's they stopped utilizing Warren, they got worse. I think it's they got worse, they couldn't utilize Tyler Warren. Because Tyler Warren, as good as he is and as fun as he is to watch, he's not necessarily a Brock Bowers or a Trey McBride where he's going to have, so much insane yak ability, so much athleticism. The issue that a lot of people had with Tyler Warren as a prospect was his athletic upside wasn't as high as those types of prospects, those types of players, which is valid. I think you've seen that on the field here. I think Tyler Warren and his versatility is elite. His athleticism is not necessarily to that level. He's very sure-handed. He's very reliable, but he is a possession receiving option. He is a guy that when you are in the lead, you get him the ball and you run out the clock because he can get you first downs. He can be a third down option. He will, on a 12 to 15 play drive where they go 80 yards the distance, can get 3 to 4 targets on that drive and score 10 points on that drive alone. That's always possible, and that's always in the cards with Tyler Warren. The issue is that completely went away once the Colts dolphin dove into the depths of suckiness for the second half of the year. And that's my concern with Tyler Warren is long-term, I don't think you can trust this offense to look like it did historically elite for the first 10 weeks of the season. That's how productive they were. I mean, people were comping them. Everybody was comping this offense from an efficiency perspective to like some of the best Peyton Manning years ever in his career, and all of it was valid. Like in the last 30 years, it was like the most productive offense that we'd ever seen in this stretch of games, like the first 10 games, and then they just flipped a switch and they looked awful. You saw this with Jonathan Taylor as well. He really kind of tapered off at the end of the season and was not nearly as consistent or productive. I'm just telling you guys, on the best case scenario outlook for Tyler Warren, let's say the Colts look like they did to start last season. His upside is not even close to what Trey McBride and Brock Bowers are, and he's the only guy that gets even close to them.
Yep.
He is the unquestioned tight end 3 in Dynasty Fantasy Football, and he does not give you a competitive advantage at price compared to Kyle Pitts or Harold Fannin, who finished as I believe the tight end 5, tight end 6. And from a points per game perspective, I think he may have been higher than Tyler Warren. I think so, yeah, because he actually missed a game. He missed like a game and a half. So he left the game injured against Pittsburgh. I'm just telling you, you can easily down tier from Tyler Warren to Harold Fannin. You can easily down tier from Warren to Loveland, Ferguson, Kittle, Plus, and a few of those guys at least are going to outproduce Tyler Warren. I'm just telling you. This right now is officially Tyler Warren's value ceiling. We told you to buy him because we knew that he was going to immediately translate to the NFL from a talent perspective. And people saw that. They got excited, as they should have, boosted his value up, and now he's to a price point where I don't think we're going to see this again, at least where he's the only guy in that range. I would pivot from Warren to Garrett Wilson. I would pivot from Warren actually to Emeka Egbuka, who we have on the sells video as well. Nico Collins, James Cook if you can, even a little plus on top. Heck, up tier to Trey McBride if you have that luxury as an enhanced value or an elite value team. Down tier to any one of those tight ends that I mentioned earlier. Or just, again, straight up move Tyler Warren for another position because you'll get more production out of the running backs or the wide receivers in that value range.
There you go. So again, I don't know why we are talking so much recently on these videos because our videos have been long. I don't know what's happening. I'm very sorry. And I know
it's because we did 8 videos during the season.
I know.
A week for DFF. And
I know. We're just used to talking this much a week. So I hope you guys enjoy it. Again, don't get in your feelings about Sal's videos. Oh, these guys. Let's just do the mean comments right now. Oh, these guys don't know anything. Correct. Yeah, cool. We don't really know. These guys are idiots. 100%.
These guys look stupid. I mean, I do have a screwed up face right now. So
we even said it. I'm getting fatter. Like, this is crazy.
Yeah.
So again, we're not right about everything, and they're just recommendations. And so just do what you think. Again, know your league. Know your league before you know anything with the trade suggestions as well, right? Your league economy is going to be different than the overall league economy. We're trying to gear this towards like the average league economy. Drop a like. Make sure you're subscribed, and you can check out our team blueprint. If you want to get specific sells for your dynasty team, we've got it linked in the pinned comment. We love you guys. We appreciate you. We'll see you here soon.